Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Real View podcast. I am your host, Allison Wiley. Joining me today, our special guest is Verl Workman. He is CEO and co-founder of Workman Success Systems, leading a premier coaching company that has guided thousands of agents, brokers, and brands towards leveraging success. With over 2 decades in real estate, he specializes in team leadership, brokerage-owned teams, and offers extensive expertise in recruiting, retention, and high-performance coaching. As a renowned speaker and author of The Workman Way, Teams Playbook, and Teams Toolbox, Verl's methods foster high-performing teams and work-life balance, providing invaluable for professional excellence. Verl, welcome onto the show. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, and we're going to dive into today's topic, which is all about how we create high-performing teams in this ever-changing real estate world that we're all living in right now. And before Verl and I started recording, we were just talking about the craziness that's happening, some of the challenges that agents are facing, and just everything that we've experienced as an industry this year. But before we get started on that, I would like to hear a little bit more about you, your career journey, and what's led you to where you are today.
Oh, well, that's a lot. So I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, but mostly. So Workman Success has been in business 10 years, even though I've been doing this for 25 plus years. Our first company was Automation Quest, and we sold it to Homes.com. And so I was part of a very early on group of speakers that got to teach realtors why they needed websites in the late 90s. And that was a fun gig.
Yeah.
And then we started Pinnacle Quest Consulting, which we did coaching and consulting. And one of the things I realized is really early on in my career is that when you're really good at something, it creates more opportunities than you can handle. And I would do these seminars and I would speak, and people come up to me after and I'd say, well, tell me about you. And I'd hear, well, I'm a normal realtor. I'm divorced, or I'm busy, but my kids don't want to work in the business. And I started thinking about that. And I thought, why is it that so many people who kick butt in real estate burn out? And it's because no one's really teaching them how to build businesses. They're being taught how to be good realtors, but they're not teaching them how to be good business owners. And Alice, this is a great question for you. How many businesses are you familiar with that are wildly successful that work as companies of one?
Yeah, that's hard to do. It's probably not a lot.
And yet in real estate, we have these big egos and we suffer from nobody can do it as good as me syndrome. So when my daughter and I started this company 10 years ago, we set out on a mission to help people create lives that had balance. And what that means is that we help people define what they want their life to look like, and then we build a business that creates it. So as opposed to, go for it, go hard, burn out, we say, what do you want your life to look like? Well, whether you're a mom or a dad or a grandparent or a husband or a wife or a spouse or a partner, it doesn't matter. I know that most people have other things they want in their life besides making money in real estate. And so we decided that we were going to help them do that by creating leverage. And leverage comes through systems and technology and humans. And so how do you do that? So we decided that we were going to create a business that focused on helping people build great lives. And the result of that has just been awesome. We've changed people's lives. It's really fun to see people not just creating wealth and doing it while they're growing their families, while they're doing the things they love the most, while they're giving back to their communities. And to me, that's the most rewarding thing of what we do. So that's kind of our journey is it's not about teams. It's about what kind of business do you want? And if that's the right vehicle to get you there, then we'll help you with that. If it's not, then we'll help you create leverage other ways.
I think that's such a refreshing perspective to think about work-life balance, to think and recognize and acknowledge that, hey, there is stuff outside of work that people have going on in their lives. So I think just the fact that, you focus on that and have made that kind of a part of what you're helping people achieve, I think is really special, because I know oftentimes as realtors, we're so focused on the business and so focused on sales and so focused on, making sure we're constantly evolving and growing our business that those other sides can slack or be not as important. So I think that's really fantastic that you focus on that, and something that I think is very, very much needed in our industry. But thank you for sharing a little bit more about you and your background and all that you do. And that's kind of what led me to you and learning a little bit about you and the work that you do in motivating teams. And as I mentioned, we were chatting before starting recording about what we face this year as an industry, and your perspective and from what you're seeing in your everyday work. What are you seeing as some of the biggest challenges that leaders are facing when it comes to creating their own teams?
Okay, so that's a lot right there. So
Yeah.
before I get into that, let me just give you, so there's another little piece that I think is important people understand about me is I'm a dad. I have 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls, and I wanted to build a business that my kids would want to be part of. And so I'm fortunate. My daughter's the president of the company. My son runs sales and marketing, and my other son, who's married, is one of our business consultants. And so all 3 of my married kids live within 5 miles of our house. All my grandkids are at my house every Sunday for dinner, and we actually are living this dream life. Now I've got 30 employees and over 100 coaches, but my kids all add real value and they make a big difference. And so we had to create a business that our kids would want to be part of. And I know there's a lot of real estate people that kids don't want any part of it, but they go get jobs, they don't make any money, and they just wish their kids could see what they could see. So I want to help them do it right. So their kids are like, I want that business. You have a great lifestyle and you're always present. So in that context, now let's get into what we're seeing in the world.
Yeah. No, thank you for a little bit more of that. I think it's so important in having that family values and that culture that you've been able to pass down to your family. I think that's really special. But yeah, so tell us about what you're hearing, what you're seeing in your experience, and yeah, what are people dealing with out there?
So right now, the industry as a whole, I believe, is in this mode called pause, and that we've had. You think about all the stuff that's gone on the last year. We have the class action lawsuit on commissions. We have higher interest rates. We have inflation. We have this polarizing election cycle, and all this is happening in 2024. And so 2024 is a year where there's so much confusion in the marketplace, people don't know what to do. So I'd say that the number one thing is that when you have lack of clarity, you just sit back and wait. And people have life events that are occurring every day that cause them to want to move. And the realtors are not contacting them. They're sitting on the sidelines. And then we have buyers and sellers that don't know what to do because they're confused with the marketplace. And so there's this massive opportunity to serve the consumer with great information as a real estate expert and get people to move off the sidelines by giving them options. And so I think what I see is there's great opportunity and there's great pause happening.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. And that's something that we've said too is like people are still need a place to live no matter what's going on. And really motivated buyers are not going to be derailed by interest rates, by some of these things that maybe could keep people on sidelines, or that we hear those, reasons come up about why people, but like you said, life is happening. It's not slowing down. People still need places to live.
Right. So that said, team leaders, what they're facing right now, I'll tell you the biggest gap in team development is that just because you're a good real estate salesperson doesn't mean you know how to lead a team. And so real estate agents who are good at real estate find themselves in a situation where they hire an assistant or they get a couple of buyer's agents or they join Zillow Flex or all of the different things that are out there that cause you to have scale, but no one's teaching them how to be good leaders, how to actually lead people and inspire them and motivate them and keep them moving forward. And so they have stress because it was easier when they were by themselves. And there's also not great systems out there other than Workman that teach how do you hire and structure a team? How do you pay individuals? How do you stay profitable? What's the criteria you look for in different roles? How do you onboard, train, and develop them? So all of those things are missing. So that's why we got really focused on teams.
Yep. Yeah.
And building teams. And now we're focused on how do you create great leaders? Because as we create great leaders as teams, guess who else they become better leaders for? Their boards of realtors, their associations, their communities, their church groups, their families. And so we're really focused right now on helping our team leaders become authentic leaders and good at it.
I love that. That's so important, right? Creating that culture. And you're right, as realtors, that's not something that is innately taught. We're taught to be salespeople. We're taught to, go and sell homes and learn how to work with clients and consumers and learn how to present ourselves so that we're the best choice for the job. And yeah, a lot of the times that isn't taught. So I think that's a really great focus. And I know a lot of people out there are so curious in how to grow in this area, how to create their teams, how to find those people. How do we start? I guess, where do we start at the beginning, or like, what are the foundation building blocks of how we can start creating our teams?
Okay, so I'm going to first start with what's going on in the life of an agent when they start thinking they need help, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to use this example. The example is my back was killing me and I couldn't even fly because my back hurt so bad. I would literally kneel on the seat and turn around and look at the people behind me. You think that's awkward? Looking at their foot, you can eat those peanuts or can I have some of that? Because my back hurts so bad. So fine, I go to the doctor and my general practitioner says, it's okay, I also do backs. Now, what do you think the chance of me having that guy do my back surgery are?
Right.
No, I wanted Tiger Woods' back doctor. I wanted whoever specializes in the part of the spine where my discs are ruptured. And so I sought out this guy named Reichman, who was actually Tiger Woods' back doctor. And I said, okay, Dr. Reichman, I want to know, I wanted to get into him. I couldn't get into him. And so I've had to find someone I knew that would refer me in, that would get me an appointment in 6 months. And I remember I'm Verl Workman. I should get right in. I get there and I'm sitting in the waiting room. I wait for an hour. And then somebody from the front desk calls me and says, Vern, come on up. I'm like, no, it's Verl. And as I go up to the counter and the receptionist says, okay, let's check your insurance. And they check my insurance to make sure I can pay. And then they get a copy of my MRI. And then they say, okay, now take a seat. You'll be called back in a minute. I get called back and Dave comes out of the back. He's got a white coat on. He goes, Verl. I go, yep. He goes, come on, I'm Dr. Reichman's PA. I'm like, what? I'm a physician's assistant. I've been with him 20 years. We've had a meeting. We've looked at your MRIs. You think you're a good candidate for surgery. Here's what it's going to look like. Here's when we can schedule you. What questions do you have? And I'm like, can I meet the doctor? He says, oh, you won't meet the doctor till the day of surgery. I'm like, what?
Wow.
And so I'm a day of surgery. I'm laying on the gurney. And the anesthesiologist comes over with the gas mask and says, okay, I'm going to have you count backwards from 100. I go, hold on. I met the doctor. Guy comes over, puts his mask down, and says, hi, Dr. Reichman, nice to meet you. Count backwards from 100 and counts backwards. Boom. And I'm out. Now, and then I get done. He meets with my wife, tells her it all went well, and then sends me to physical therapy. I meet with a physical therapist who then works rehab and gets me all done. And now I'm playing pickleball and having fun again. And my life is good. Okay. So I want you to think about this scenario. As a real estate agent, who are you in the story? Are you the receptionist that does insurance billing? Are you the PA that assists the doctor in helping it? Are you the anesthesiologist? Are you the physical therapist? Or are you the surgeon? And who do you want to be in the story? If you spend all of your time doing admin work, showing property, doing all of the things associated with the work that happens when somebody does a transaction, you don't spend any time doing surgery. Man, that surgeon makes a lot of money because all he does is surgery. And he's built a team around him that does all the other tasks. And today, the consumer is trained to work with specialists in every area of their life. I mean, my wife has a different lady that cuts her hair, somebody different that colors it, someone that does her eyebrows, different that does her eyelashes. She has somebody else that does facials. She has somebody else that does her nails, and a totally different person that does her feet. And they're all working on the same cosmetology license.
Yeah.
And so the consumer's trained to work with specialists. Now think about real estate. As a buyer or a seller of a home, who do you want? You want someone who does residential, commercial, does admin work, puts signs in yards, holds open houses, drives buyers around? Or do you want someone who's a specialist in your type of real estate? And so what happens is we become specialists when we build teams. I have a specialist for prospecting. I have a specialist for appointment setting. I have somebody that does transaction management, start to finish. I have a specialist that's really good at negotiating contracts and getting stuff sold. I have another specialist that's really good at working with buyers, and somebody different that works with listings. And so to me, a team means that we are going to decide to create a specialized experience for the consumer so they don't question whatever it is we charge for our services. I want them to have such an amazing experience. It doesn't matter what the fee is, it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they all work together, right? It sounds like from what you're saying. Yeah. And I think that could be a common misconception is that the teams, there's that competition and we're all, going after doing our own stuff. But you're saying that we're all working together for one common thing in our own respective areas. This episode of The Real View is brought to you by the Ohio Association of Community Colleges. Ohio's network of community colleges provides accessible training that accommodates the busy lifestyles of aspiring real estate professionals at half the price of a traditional university.
With convenient locations in every part of the state, as well as online options, Ohio's community colleges are your smart choice for pre-licensing education. For more details or to start the journey to a real estate career, visit the education page at ohiorealtors.org and then click on the pre-license course locations.
Yep. So think about that. That's a team, right? That's what a team is. So team just means leverage. Team leaders right now, I'd say the first hire you should have is an assistant. You should do transaction processing. Like if you spend any of your day doing $20 an hour tasks, that means you're not focused on $1,000 an hour tasks. And so if I were coaching you, I would say, I'm going to have you track everything you do in your day in 30-minute increments for the next 30 days. And then we're going to write down $100 an hour next to all those tasks. And we're going to put your name by everything you can do that you should not be doing, that you would not be willing to pay someone $100 an hour to do. If you couldn't, like, you got to outsource it. So we get virtual assistants, we use transaction coordinators. I like to say, what are the services or resources provided by your brokerage or your brand or your association? So what are the tools that are provided by you that we can use to create leverage first? So first we do systems and then we do people to run those systems.
Yep.
You know what a team leader's job is? I'll make it really simple. Business development and people development.
Mm-hmm.
Selling houses and administering a transaction is done by the team. Now, in the beginning, team leaders take the role of usually listing partner, and then they outsource transactional stuff, and they get really good at listing, and they realize this works pretty good, so they hire a buyer's agent. They realize that if I spend an hour going after a listing, I'll list a house, and I could make $10,000. Whatever your commission's up to you. Okay, so let's say I just make 10 grand. If I work with a buyer, I do 20 hours of showing houses, and I make the same 10 grand. So where should you spend your focus? An hour or 20 hours?
Yeah.
So what I teach them how to do is, how do you hire people who are going to be really good at working with buyers that have never made $100,000 a year before? And I teach them that it's more important that they get a good 1099 than it is they get a big split. And then we onboard, develop, and train that individual so they're great at working with buyers, so you don't have to anymore. And if I get my team leader to focus on listings, then eventually they end up. So here's some numbers. We're very methodical in the way we coach. So for example, data drives everything and systems drive everything. So every listing you get should generate 1.5 buy-side closings. Every listing you get should equal 6 to 8 leads a month. Every 25 leads we generate, we add a buyer's agent. So that's methodical. It's a system. And because we're running a system, we don't wonder whether or not it's time to hire someone. We look at, what are you doing? If you're not doing enough, then we say, how do we get you there? And then when you get there, we know when the next hire is. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. And that way you kind of have that plan laid out. So you know, based on hitting these milestones and these achievements, when that next trigger happens.
I'd say that greatness is predictable, and so is average. And if we measure and track the right things, I know what your result's going to be. Allison, how many people you've interviewed that are agents that have these success habits, and you look at them and you go, why doesn't everybody do that?
Right.
Right? Well, it's because they've trained themselves to do dollar productive activities. Well, we created a daily success habits tracker, and they have to get 61 points a day doing dollar productive activities. Do you know how many people don't do that? Most agents can't afford to even pay for their continuing education, let alone let their kids play, comp sports. And so because they don't make enough money as real estate agents, it's not because they're not good people or they don't know what to do. It's because they don't execute the basic fundamentals at a high enough level. And so we're very tactical. Like, what are you doing today? What are you going to do tomorrow? How do we get better at it? It becomes very tactical in our approach to building teams.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And it just lays it out in such a practical way too. I think you have all the goals ahead of you. You know what you need to do. And it's a really great way to kind of monitor and track that success. Okay, so we kind of talked a little bit about how to build those teams, how to find the right people to do the right tasks, how to find those specialists and how they work together to achieve the one common goal. But how do we keep those teams motivated and inspired, right? Especially knowing the landscape that we're in right now with the industry, like you mentioned, that confusion that might be out there, that do I go? Do I sit on the sidelines? How do we keep our teams motivated and inspired?
Well, it first comes down to leadership style. And where I'd like to teach my leaders is that their job is to help their people get everything they want. Most people start teams because they're busy and they hire people to serve them. And I want to flip it. So now as a leader, your job is to serve your agents, not to make them do your bidding. Very different perspective. So if you want to motivate people, they need to know that you care about them and you're willing to pour into them, help them get what they want in their life. So I start with business plans. So right now, all of our clients are doing business planning. We're building 2025 business plans. First, we lay out and we do what we do vision boards. And so I want everybody on the team to share with me what they want for the future. What do they want next year? They want to buy a house. They want mountain bikes. They want to go to Disneyland. What are the things that are important to them? And then we work backwards into, okay, so how much do you need to take home in order to be able to have the things on your board? Which sometimes it's hard. And once we understand what that number is, we say, okay, so my job as your leader is to help you get everything that's on your vision board. It's not to help you get everything on my board. I'll get everything that I want if I help you get everything that you want. And so we teach them how to develop people. So once we understand what's in it for them, and they know that my focus, if you were on my team, Allison, I just want to know everything about you, where you want to go, where do you want to vacation, what's going on with your family, where do you feel like you're falling short, and how do I help you improve in the areas that matter to you and your family? And I'm going to get up every day and I'm going to help you focus on the things that matter the most. I've learned that if you know that I'm in the boat with you and we're trying to get the same things for you, I don't have to make you do anything. So leadership is not about accountability. Accountability is a bunch of crap. I know right now, like we just met today, Allison. I know for sure I can't make you do anything you don't want to do. Is that true?
So true.
Right. So why do we have this myth that I can make you do something? All I can do is create an environment where you choose to do the things that will help you get where you want to go. And if I know what you want and I'm really clear on it, and then we create a way to track it. So let's say that you wanted to make $100,000 in real estate, and we figure out that you need to prospect for 2 hours a day, and you need to have 5 conversations and set 1 appointment a day. And if you set 1 appointment a day, that's going to be how we measure today as a win. And so every day when I see you, you can just give me a W or an L. Today was a win or it's a loss. If you got an appointment, it's a win, and we high five each other, it's a loss. And I say, okay, what are you doing? How do I help you get it? And we know what that one thing is that you need to get a win, and that's 1 appointment today. But how are we going to do that? But we just figured out. It's not, I don't have to say, oh, you're grounded. You didn't do it. I'm taking away your income. I'm not going to make, like we do a daily huddle. We review what we did yesterday. We look at what your goals are for today. I coach and train you on how to get better at it. And then we go off and kick butt. That's the culture that I'm talking about.
Yeah. And that's the key, right? Now I wanted to get into this a little bit too about that culture, in setting that culture and how important that culture is when we think about team management and motivating and inspiring. So tell us a little bit about your perspective and views on culture and what it means to the working with others, building those strong teams, and even in your own leadership role.
So culture's everything. So
yeah.
Every business, every team, every family has a culture, and it's either intentionally created or it's accidentally created. Most teams have a culture that's accidental. It's not intentional. And so we set up a culture. We decide what we want our culture to be. I like that. If I were to define a culture, a Workman coached culture, it would be a culture of productivity, where we're helping people be productive. Some teams have a culture of a bunch of agents that get together as a group, and none of them produces anything, and they whine about everything going on in the world. That's a culture. We have other cultures where everybody's in it for themselves. They don't help each other. There's no collaboration. That's culture. And so a culture of productivity looks like this. We get up every day and we dress for success, and we meet and we have a huddle. The huddle is usually 15 minutes where we track the things that we all agreed as a team we were going to track and measure. Then we practice scripts and dialogues for 30 minutes. We role play what we're going to say and how we're going to say things, because you don't get great without practice. And then as a team, we all prospect. So daily huddle, role play, prospect. Now, if I stopped here, and anybody who's thinking about having a team or on a team or wants to build a team, if your team just did that daily, what would be the result?
Yeah.
There's no way you go backwards.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost any money to coach with us. You make so much money and you earn so much more because you're doing things that make you productive. So we measure the right things, we track them, and then we create a culture. Other things in our culture is we do events and we focus on creating a set of core values, and we hire and we fire to those core values. You're looking at behind my desk right here. These are my core values. They're on my desk. When you get hired at Workman, you get a copy of the core values. You sign off on the core values. You understand that anybody on my team can fire you for directly violating or stepping on a core value. And my values are these: choose to be happy. Hey, we all have crap, don't we? When you walk through that door, leave your crap outside. Come in and let's make a difference in people's lives. Choose to be happy. Communicate openly and honestly. I like to say we don't have people problems, we have process problems. And so when someone's not doing the right thing, we attack the process. Hey, how do we fix that so we can give people the benefit of the doubt and make it better? Have and share vision. Oh my gosh, the people that work here are so much smarter than I am. And if they're willing to share the vision, we create an opportunity where they can share. The culture changes. Integrity always is a non-negotiable. We just do the right thing. And now I want you to think about that single core value, integrity. An agent joins the team and you say, I'm going to have a huddle every day, but they don't show up for huddle. Are they keeping the commitment they made to you?
Mm-mm.
Right. When you're not following up with leads, we use an ABC lead follow-up system. And I look in your thing and you're not tracking it in your CRM, you're not following up with leads. Are you following up with integrity?
Right.
No. When you left your home today to go to work, did your family think you were actually going to do money-making activities?
Mm.
And if you spent your whole day doing fake work and didn't do anything that generates any income, you're literally lying to your family, making them think you went to work today. So I can use my core values to deal with any problem or issue with anybody on the team. And it's huge. All right. So having shared vision, show gratitude. I love the last one is we persist until we succeed. We follow up with people until they buy or tell us to die. Right? You just follow up. And we follow up to serve, not to sell. And the business takes care of itself.
Yeah. And that's just a great way to set that culture. Definitely. And I think, all of that is so important when we think about creating these teams and the daily huddle. I loved that. And I think one of the things that you had talked about too is this 1 minute strategy, right? And I think that comes from another author of a book, but they go into this 1 minute strategy. Tell us a little bit about that and how that can be effective.
Yeah, the 1 Minute Manager. And if you haven't read that, you need to read it. It's a bathroom read. It's a little short book. And it basically talks about 1 minute praises and 1 minute reprimands. And your 1 minute praises should be 4 or 5 times more than your reprimands. And yet, as leaders, what we often do is only deal with things that are problems. And we're giving constant negative feedback. I thought CNN, constantly negative news. Nobody wants that. And so they change channels. Nobody wants that constantly negative information. And so we look for opportunities to praise. We do shout outs where we have in our Monday meetings, anybody on the team can shout out anybody else on the team for doing something exceptional. And then we have an employee of the month that got the most shout outs from their team members. And it's literally a competition to catch people doing something great.
That's awesome.
And it creates a culture that people, it's hard to leave once you come to work here. It's hard to leave here because people love the culture and the environment. Doesn't mean we don't screw it up sometimes. Like we become great because of all of our mistakes. We just try not to make them too often.
Yeah, of course. No, it sounds fantastic. I'm taking some of these ideas and running my team meetings up with that. But when you create that culture and environment of positivity, that is so contagious and it grows on other people. And I love what you were saying about it's almost like you're teaching people how to self-motivate. Like I can't motivate you to do something you want to do, but I am going to get you to self-motivate yourself in order to do that. And that's through the praise and through the, positivity and through the celebrations it sounds like you're having on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's really fantastic and absolutely something that every team should find a way to work into their model. How can people get a hold of you, Verl, if they want to learn more, if they want to get in touch with you? Tell us how we can learn more about you and what your office does.
I'll tell you the best way is to go to growmyrealestatebiz.com, growmyrealestatebiz.com, and then click on Find My Fit. And when you click on that, it'll give you a little assessment where you can tell us a little bit about you. And then somebody from my team will reach out and we'll do a consultation, kind of see where you are, where you want to go. And then we can determine whether or not we can help you. I promise that when people go to that, our consultants are really good and they're going to give them something of value, whether you ever sign up or to coach with us. We just are served regardless of mentality. Regardless of opportunity, mentality really does play out. So it's workmansuccess.com or go to growmyrealestatebiz.com and click on Find My Fit. And let's see if we can help you. It doesn't matter if you're an agent or a broker or a brand or a franchise business owner that's trying to grow. We have very specific systems and processes and coaches that can help you at any level. I like to say my boat runs on gas, not tanks. We lead with revenue, and we teach businesses how to be successful financially because there's no better motivator than success.
Absolutely. And, it's something that everyone, should constantly be thinking about and working on. And even if you're like, I'm good, I hit all my goals this year, it's something to always keep in top of mind and always be hoping to grow and learn. And so, Verl, I want to thank you again so much for joining me today. This is great to hear a little bit more about your world and the great things that you do and helping people achieve all of their dreams and goals. So thanks so much for coming on. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
My pleasure. Great to be here with you.
And to all of our listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you next week.
Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/therealview and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.